All right, welcome to Niners Nightly on the Sports Leaders YouTube channel. Dave Softy Mahler from KJR in Seattle joining us with the Niners taking on the Seahawks. Dave, before we get to the matchup on Thursday, which will be here before long, man, the Niners and the Seahawks are both licking their wounds, from the weekend that was 49ers losing at home to the Arizona Cardinals 24-23. And the New York Giants came to Seattle and they beat the Seahawks 29-20. Since you know far more about that game, why don't you tell us what happened? How did the Giants get it done?
Yeah, this is like two bums fighting over a quarter on Thursday night, man. After those games that we saw over the weekend, I mean, it was a total disaster on both sides of the ball. How'd they get it done? Well, they couldn't move the ball on offense, and they couldn't stop anybody on defense. I mean, pretty simply put, right? Trey Brown got picked on like burnt toast in that game by Daniel Jones, and whatever the Giants could toss out there at wide receiver. We're thinking the whole week that there's no Devin Singletary. There's no Malik Neighbors. You're playing the friggin' Giants, man. They're going 3,000 miles away. They never play well out here. East Coast ball clubs do not do well when they come to the West Coast, which I'm sure is the same, case with your place down there in Santa Clara. And it was just a complete nightmare. I mean, they just completely abandoned the run early in the game. Jackson Smith and Jigba had a terrible game. DK Metcalf had another fumble, just like you had last week on Monday night. They were moving the ball, and DK just for some reason inexplicably just could not hang on to it. He's got more fumbles than anybody at that position since he came into the league, 4 years ago. He's got to clean that up, and then just totally ignoring Kenny Walker on offense. I mean, Monday night against the Lions wasn't a real run-heavy day, but they're moving the ball. They had 177 yards of offense in the first half on Sunday. The guy saw the ball 5 times, and it was a tight game pretty much the entire afternoon. So, Larry, when I say disaster, it was an absolute disaster on every aspect of the football team, coaches included, without question. And now you got guys coming out saying things like, well, we took them lightly. Well, we weren't prepared. I mean, what the hell is that? Like, are you kidding me? I mean, you guys are paid millions of dollars a year to play one game a week, for God's sakes. And you couldn't even get up for a game at home after you got beat the previous Monday night? I thought the Hawks were going to roll on Sunday against the Giants after what happened on Monday against the Lions. And I was greatly disappointed to hear players come out and start talking about taking people lightly. That is absolute chicken crap for those guys to have that kind of attitude heading into that game on Sunday afternoon, and they paid for it.
All right, let's talk about Ryan Grubb. He's the offensive coordinator. What happened, Dave? I mean, why did they have 11 runs and 40 passes? Why did they abandon the run game? I mean, you got Walker, you got Charbonnet. They're both good NFL running backs. Why did he abandon the run so early?
Well, Kenny Walker's in a class by himself. He's not in the same class as Zach Charbonnet. I mean, they were missing Kenny Walker for a few weeks, and it showed big time in the run game, but they were playing teams like the Dolphins and teams like the Patriots and teams like Denver, and it didn't matter. But you go on the road and you play a team like Detroit, you play a defense like the Giants, you better find a way to be a little more balanced than that. What I think is going on, honestly, I don't think Ryan Grubb has any confidence in his offensive line to run block, Larry, at all. I mean, look, I think we have to just kind of simply start from a standpoint of, do we believe that offensive coordinators are idiots in the NFL? Well, maybe some of them are idiots, but I don't think Ryan Grubb is an idiot, because I saw Ryan Grubb at Washington do masterful things and go 25-3 with Michael Penix and Rome Odunze and Jalen McMillan and a couple of big-time NFL prospects at offensive line, including one guy who's with the Ravens and one guy who's with Pittsburgh right now, and Troy Fontana. So I don't think he's an idiot. I think Ryan Grubb woke up on Sunday morning after the week of practice and thought, I have a much better pass protecting offensive line than I do a run blocking offensive line. And there's a lot of chatter out there right now, including from McDonald, about running the ball more. And I don't know if this is the weekend to do it against you guys, to be totally honest with you, man. I mean, everybody wants to see balance in the NFL. The balance is like 60-40, 55-45, right? Throwing the ball, for crying out loud. So I think he's got a horse in DK Metcalf. I think he believes in Geno Smith. He's got real weapons in Jackson Smith and Jigba and Tyler Lockett, and he knows what he's got in his offensive line, and the offensive line is not a run-blocking offensive line quite yet. Keep in mind, Larry, they're on their third-string right tackle right now, and basically what amounts to be their second string right guard. And they got a senior citizen playing left guard in Laken Tomlinson, and a guy that was just brought in off the street as a free agent like a month ago in Connor Williams, who had the torn ACL in Miami, and he may not even be totally 100% ready yet to play. So this is an offensive line that's got problems, man. No question.
It's interesting that they view themselves as more of a pass blocking line, because this Giants game, they give up 7 sacks, 10 hits on the quarterback. Some guy named DJ Davidson, who I've never heard of in my entire life, had 2 sacks for the G-men. Damian Lewis moved on. Why is this line? I know Abraham Lucas is on the pup, right, but why is this line so bad? Cross was a great offensive tackle in college. Laken Tomlinson was really solid here in San Francisco. Bradford was good at LSU. Connor Williams was supposed to be a good player. Are you surprised that Seattle's offensive line is this bad?
Well, first of all, saying that Anthony Bradford was good at LSU is like saying that you were good looking in high school. Things
been a while.
Change, Larry. Things change, right? Time catches up to all of us. Okay, what once was is no longer for a lot of people, including Laken Tomlinson, who's a senior citizen now. And Anthony Bradford was a 4th-round draft pick for a reason, right? Look, is he serviceable? I guess. You're totally right about the right tackle spot, that it was supposed to be Abe Lucas, who I thought was a very good player here for a couple of years out of Washington State. He got hurt, so they went out and gave George Fant $7 million, right, to be a swing guy, backup right tackle. Probably when they signed him, thought he was going to be a starter because they knew Lucas was going to be out for a while at right tackle, to be honest with you. And now George Fant's banged up. So now you're playing a guy named Stone Forsythe. That sounds like something out of Game of Thrones, for crying out loud. Stone Forsythe is your starting right tackle. Anthony Bradford is your starting right guard, because Christian Haynes, who you took in the 3rd round from UConn, just isn't ready to play every day yet. You thought you had a starting center in the Outland Trophy guy from 2 years ago, and Olu Oluwatimi out of Michigan. He never panned out, or hasn't panned out so far. So they went out and they got Connor Williams. So what the offensive line was supposed to look like, if you were to told me 6 months ago, it's not Big Olu at center, it's not Christian Haynes at right guard, and it's not Abe Lucas at right tackle, which it's not, I would have been concerned. Well, guess what? It's not, and I'm concerned.
Do you like McDonald?
Yeah, so far I do. I thought he had a bad day. I thought he had a really, really bad day on Sunday. Anytime you got players coming out admitting that they took somebody lightly, admitting they didn't give 100%, admitting they didn't prepare as hard as they could for a game, I think that's a problem. And I'm really curious to see how Mike Macdonald handles this on the short week. Larry, here's the thing. You go back to the game on Monday against the Lions, and the game yesterday on Sunday, and then against you guys Thursday. That's 3 games in 10 days for the Hawks. I have no idea what your schedule's been like as far as, the calendar. I know you played against the Cardinals on Sunday, but 3 games in 10 days for Seattle. They're going to be spent for this game on Thursday night, man. The energy, I think, is kind of getting sucked out of the fan base a little bit. Hey, it was great to be 3-0, but going 3-2, we all are in a "what have you done for me lately" world. And what the Seahawks have done for the fan base lately is completely embarrassed them on Sunday.
Let's talk about McDonald for a second, because he really bothered the Niners. The Ravens had a phenomenal game plan on Christmas night last year, and you could make an argument the Niners didn't play great after that point. What changes has he? I know he brought in Byron Murphy. I know Maffei's playing well. I know he's hurt now, but I love Tyrese Knight. I think Tyrese Knight's a stud, man. I love that kid at UTEP. That was a great draft pick by John Schneider. But how is the, for Niner fans who know a lot about Seattle and their defense under Pete, and saw McDonald's defense in Baltimore, what changes are you seeing, Dave, from last year to this year defensively with this Hawks team?
Well, we saw him when he was at Michigan, too. He played Washington a couple years ago and kicked our ass, just beat the tar out of us in Ann Arbor. And, little what have I known then, he was going to be the Seahawks head coach in 3 years from now. So we've been kind of keeping an eye on him for a while. Look, they run a 3-4 now versus the 4-3 that Pete Carroll used to run. That is obviously the biggest change with this defense. The other issue, too, is that they rely on great communication, right? That is the hallmark of the Mike Macdonald defense. It is complex as hell. And he's been talking about this ever since he showed up here. People that cover Mike Macdonald have talked about it ever since he showed up here, that it is almost it demands elite communication skills. And when you have so many guys banged up and you have so many new players coming in every single week, that's been an issue for this football team. I mean, Byron Murphy was out again. Boye Mafe was out again. Chenna Nwosu, who was hurt half of last year, missed the first 4 games of this year, came back yesterday and got hurt 20 plays in. And I don't think he's going to play on Thursday night, by the way, either, Larry, against you guys. I think he's going to – I think he re-injured that knee. I think he's going to be out again for a while. So I would not rely on that guy, whatever. And the Seahawks just gave him a brand new deal, by the way, about a year ago, and he has not been able to stay healthy since he got that contract. So if you've got a defense that's relying on elite communication and you have all these new players and all these young players – and a bunch of guys on one-year deals that are out to prove it to people that they deserve another contract when the year's over, that's a major issue right now, Larry, for this defense. And I don't know if they can fix it by Thursday night against the Niners.
Can they stop the run? I mean, Tyrone Tracy, my goodness, yeah. Tyrone Tracy just gashed him 7 yards a pop. And, he's a good player at Purdue, but he's more of a receiver. Yeah. And I'm shocked to see those numbers.
Can you see me right now, by the way? What am I doing right now? I'm shaking my head.
You're shaking your head.
Why would I be confident they can stop the run against you guys if they can't stop that guy against the Giants on Sunday? Now, look, I mean, obviously McCaffrey's not going to play. No way he's playing in the game on Thursday night. Is that correct? I know he's eligible to come off the IR.
Right. He will not be playing.
Yeah, he's out. So that's a huge freaking positive for the Seahawks. My God, if I had a fantasy football team and McCaffrey was healthy and I was playing the Seahawks defense right now, I would trade everything for McCaffrey for this game on Thursday night. But no, they had missed tackle after missed tackle after missed tackle. It was an absolute clinic on how not to tackle people in this game on Sunday against the Giants. So right now, I don't have a lot of confidence in them doing anything on the defensive side of the ball after what I saw against the G-Men. I would go right after Trey Brown if I were you guys. If he ends up playing again and getting significant time, I would find Trey Brown and go after him. And then after the Niner game on Thursday, thank God the Hawks have a weekend off because of the Thursday night game. But then they're going to Atlanta to play Kirk Cousins, who threw for 500 yards over the weekend, last Thursday against Tampa Bay. So this feels like a real fork in the road type moment for this football team, as I'm sure it does for you guys as well.
One guy who's under fire here is Brian Schneider, because the Niners special teams have been atrocious. And I know you guys just had some special teams gaffes this weekend, but Schneider, and he was there for years. I mean, how would you describe Brian Schneider as a special teams coach? Is he one of the best in the league and the Niners are just struggling despite having a great coordinator? Or, is he not one of the best in the league?
I mean, it's hard to judge special teams coaches, I don't know if you remember the name Rusty Tillman. He was our
I know Rusty
coach.
Tillman. I used to drink beers with Rusty Tillman.
Yeah, back in the 80s. He was the guy that would be out there with Norm Johnson and Rick Booten Tootin and Bobby Joe Edmonds. And he always had a really good special teams in Seattle. I don't know if special teams gurus are still out there the way they were back when you and I were younger, because they've taken away so much of what these guys can do on the field, right? Like Jason Myers is fine. Michael Dixon is a phenomenal punter. Forget about the return game because nobody returns anything anymore, for crying out loud, in the NFL. So those days are over. But when he was here, he had John Ryan, he had Stephen Hauchka, he had Doug Baldwin returning kicks, he had Percy Harvin returning kicks in 2013. So nobody said boo about Brian Schneider because he had good players, man. And the rules are totally different back then. But I just think, going back to the game and the blocked field goal, they let Isaiah Simmons just walk right through the A-gap, literally right between the guard and the center. And he was untouched, and he literally jumps over the gap, which is totally legal, and then has enough time to jump back up in the air and block that kick and have it returned for a touchdown by the Giants on Sunday. So total meltdown, total breakdown by the Seahawks special teams field goal unit there. I got to be honest with you. I don't give a damn about your special teams coach right now because my special teams is terrible. I got my own problems up here, Larry.
I hear you. The fans, you do a talk show, and you've done a talk show in that market for a long time. So you're the perfect guy to ask about how the fans feel. They had Pete forever. Schneider's still there, but Pete's moved on, and now McDonald steps in. And I like McDonald too, and I thought that was a good hire. They get
Right.
off to a 3-0 start. They barely beat Denver in week 1, but they got the win. They barely beat New England in overtime in week 2, but they got the win. Then they smoked Miami. How were the fans talking about McDonald and the Seahawks team after week 3 compared to, after week 5?
Well, I'll just ask you this. Do you think there's a lot of parity in the NFC right now? Because I do. Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
there's a buttload of parity in the NFC. There's a boatload of parity in the NFL. So when you're 3-0, you're thinking, all right, we're 7-7 away from a 10-win season. We're 8-6 away from going 11-6. I mean, that's doable. That seems like something they could pull off. Then they lose 2 in a row, and they look awful against the Giants on Sunday. So what was once a fan base, and everything changes so fast in the NFL, obviously, what was once a fan base 2 weeks ago that was talking about, hey, if they can get their act together and maybe get some guys back healthy again, because remember, they had a ton of guys out for the game on Monday night against the Lions too, they could make a run at this thing. I mean, this thing is wide open, man. They got a 2-game lead in the division already. The Niners are scuffling. The Rams look like they're falling apart. The Cardinals don't look like much. This thing is wide freaking open. And then that happened yesterday against the Giants, and they totally fell apart. So now people are pissed. Now people want blood. Now people are embarrassed, and now people are wondering whether or not Mike Macdonald's the right guy for the job, which is obviously ridiculous because the guy's been here for 5 games.
Well, Dave, give me your perspective because you've been covering the NFL for a long time. Lots of people are saying fire Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah.
How do you, when you hear Niner fans say fire Kyle Shanahan, give me your first thing that comes to mind.
Let me ask you, idiots is the first thing that comes to mind. Complete and total idiots. Were you guys not in the Super Bowl last year? Did I dream that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they were.
Okay. Yeah. So, are we recording this right now? Can I swear and you can bleep it out? Is that okay?
Go ahead. What the hell? Why
okay. I would say to Niner fans that have that opinion, shut the fuck up. Honestly, like you have no. You sound like complete and total meatheads when you talk like that. You sound like complete and total dolts when you come out with that opinion. And I really hope that you don't have that opinion, Larry, because if you do, then I just called you a dolt and called you a meathead. I know there are people down there in the media that feel that way. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, my God, like, what are you people even smoking down there? What are you talking about? Firing a head coach that just got you to a Super Bowl a year ago. This is what happens when you're good. You have divas, you have prima donnas, you have guys that want brand new contracts. How much different is this team if Christian McCaffrey's healthy the entire year? I mean, my God, you know what? Every fan base has their idiot quota. I'm starting to think that maybe you guys might have the biggest idiot quota in the NFL if you think you want to fire your head coach 5 games after playing in the stinking Super Bowl. My God.
Seriously. Couple last ones before we let you go. Any new faces on this defense? I saw Jerome Baker made 14 tackles, had a sack. He was everywhere. They've got Dodson, the former Buffalo Bill, on this defense. I'm a huge fan of Julian Love. My God, every time I watch that kid, he just makes play after play after play. Byron Murphy's kind of a beast. Who are the faces on defense that are making plays for McDonald?
Yeah, I mean, Julian Love is obviously one of them. Reek Woolen's another. He got banged up, had to leave the game on Sunday against the Giants. You know, Jenkins had the fumble return. Rayshon Jenkins, who came over from Tampa Bay, had the fumble return last week on the field goal, 101 yards. He's got blazing speed. There's no question about that. But the newest face is Byron Murphy, and he's not going to play probably in the game on Thursday night. He's missed the last 2 games, and I have no idea if he's going to be available. And they need him big time because they are missing him. They were missing Leonard Williams in the Monday night game. He came back. Boye Mafe is turning into one of the better pass rushers in the NFL, but he hasn't played for 2 weeks. So I don't know what his status is for Thursday night, but Boye Mafe, if he plays in this game on Thursday, keep an eye on him because he is playing like one of the premier defensive ends, edge rushers right now in the National Football League, but they need their guys, right? Like the defense is going to be good. I think all of us kind of feel like, hey, Mike Macdonald knows what he's doing. The defense is going to be good. But as my buddy Hugh Millen said, they need their guys. And right now, Larry, they just don't have their guys.
All right, Dave Softy Mahler with us on Niners Nightly. Dave, before we let you out of here, who wins Thursday night? Who is the wild card factor between the Niners and the Hawks Thursday?
Yeah, the wild card has got to be Kenny Walker, Larry. People are pissed off. He's not getting the ball. Fans are angry. Media is bringing it up. It's turning into a big giant thing up here, a big dramatic thing. He got the ball 5 times on Sunday against the Giants. So really curious to see how much they can feed Kenny Walker in the game. And if they do feed him, how the Niners contain him. That's number 9. So keep an eye on that. And then for me, look, I would just have to say, if I'm a betting man and bet a significant amount of money, and don't tell the Seahawks fans I said this, I'd probably bet you guys. And the reason why I would bet you guys is because all my bets have been terrible this year, and I've been wrong on everything. So that's why I'm picking the Niners again to win this game Thursday night.
I thought of you Saturday night watching Cam Ward come back in Berkeley, man. Cam Ward is special. He is special. And you got a first. I know you're more of a Husky guy than a Cougs guy, but man, Cam Ward was special for Miami Saturday night.
He sure is, man. I picked him to win the Heisman Trophy before the year began, so maybe that'll be one pick I'll get right before the season starts. But yeah, that's a hell of a collapse by California Saturday, man. Holy moly! Anybody busting Justin Wilcox's balls out there yet?
Will Seattle try to get Cam Ward in the draft?
You know, I'd love to have him. Honestly, I'm not sure if he can throw at this level, to be totally honest with you. But I've seen guys really mature. I mean, Jalen Hurts could not throw the ball at Alabama at all. And then he went to Oklahoma and kind of became a pretty decent passer and took the Eagles to a Super Bowl, for crying out loud. So obviously they're kind of falling apart a little bit here. But this is a big year for Geno Smith, dude. He's got to prove he deserves that next contract, because when this season's over, he's going to want one.
He's playing well. Dave, you're the man. Thanks for jumping in on KMBR. Good luck to you guys Thursday night. I don't mean that. And we'll talk soon.
All right. Kiss my ass. See you. Bye.